Hi everybody, I'm Cade Girardi and I'm outside Phoenix at Mihal Contracting, and we're going to go over some of the procedures and operations for a pretreatment system. Let's get into it. Today we will be visiting a site to see exactly how a pretreatment system operates. All the components and the different facets that work together to get exactly what your permit requires.
Here is an overly simplified diagram of the pretreatment process. Discharged water comes out of the plant into the grease trap for stage 1. Again, the purpose of this device is to remove fats, oils, and grease, or fogs. It is essential that these get regularly cleaned and pumped out so that there is not an overflow or backup of debris. Additionally, the baffle walls should be well maintained with the lines frequently being jetted. Mihal Contracting has maintenance plans to make sure that this is all being done on schedule.
Alright, this is the lift station. What the purpose of the lift station is it acts for two things. It's A, a holding tank, and B, it lifts the water from below grade to above grade. This brings it above the grade so that we can treat the water.
Some components of a lift station are wet wells, a screen or grinder that removes coarse materials, pumps, piping, and valves, motors and their pump draws, power supplies, equipment control, alarm systems, ventilation, and odor control. Lift stations are the most commonly forgotten about stage in the pretreatment process, but not for Mihal Contracting, as we have a dedicated team just to maintain and ensure they function.
The next step of the process is bringing that water into the EQ tank.
The EQ tank is the first place to start the treatment process and can ultimately serve two purposes. It can be a holding tank that feeds into the treatment tank and closes while a batch is being treated, or it can be the tank that homogenizes the total suspended solids, pH, and FOGs before discharge. The EQ tank also needs to be properly maintained, cleaned, and managed.
Now we finally get to the treat tank, and this is where the magic happens, because this is where the treatment occurs. So the pH might come in at a lower or higher pH. Well, we can't dump that out to the sewer, so this is where the treatment comes into place.
The treat system is ran by a PLC that receives notice from a recirculating loop, otherwise known as a recirc loop. This recirc loop pulls a small stream of water from the holding tank and tests the pH continuously. A meter reports those pH readings back to the PLC, giving direction to either raise or lower the pH using chemical injection. Maintaining these complicated systems is Mihal Contracting's field of expertise, and we have expert technicians that work round clock receiving emergency calls and doing routine systems evaluations to make sure that these systems never go down.
So if the pH is not within the city standard of 5 to 10.5, we need two tools to bring it back within that standard. What do we use? We use caustic and acid.
When the PLC reads out of the set point that was set by a Mihal Senior Tech, the PLC signals through a 4-to-20 output to kick on the chemical pumps. If the recirc loop is reading below the set point, caustic is used to increase the pH. If it is reading above the set point, acid is used to reduce the pH. Getting the system to the sweet spot before dumping to the sewer is not to be taken lightly, as professional chemical training is required. Mihal Contracting's technicians have HAZWOPER certifications and a unique skill set to work with chemical pumps, lines, and other possible dangerous components that are involved.
The last and final step is the compliance point. Now, the compliance point is used just for measuring and monitoring. This is what is reported to the city based on the permit standards.
At the compliance point, there typically is a pH measuring unit, a flow measuring unit, and a level measuring unit. With all three devices data combined allows plants and factories to report 2-minute readings of GPM, gallons per minute, flow, and pH readings to the city through reports called SMRs. We install, troubleshoot, and maintain all various types of these measuring devices such as flumes, lasers, ultrasonic sensors, pH sensors, AV sensors, bubblers, and more. After each month, we also collect this data, compile it to the city's request, and fill out these SMRs that are submitted to the city for review.
After seeing exactly what a pretreatment system is, it can be said that they're quite complicated. That's not to worry. Mihal Contracting does it all. We in fact have a construction background, so we install these pretreatment systems completely. And after they're installed, we do routine service on these systems to ensure that they're working to their absolute standard. If something were to break, we also do all the repairs that are needed on the system. That includes after-hour alarm calls. And that also includes if something were to break sporadically, we're there on the spot. We want to make sure that that system is working exactly to the city's standards. And we also want to ensure that the pH is within range. And that is our promise and our goal to you.
An additional service Mihawk Contracting provides is the responsibility of receiving and producing mandatory sampling to stay compliant with the city's requirements. We have a sampling team that works with companies all throughout the valley. They set samplers based on the permit's language at each designated location. They use correct methodologies for pouring samples in the correct preservatives and bottle kits, from which they deliver the samples to labs all across Phoenix to receive the results that they need to be reported by your due date.
It's going to be every 11 gallons. You can see the pace by flow. It's all we just want to check and make sure, you know what I mean? Just check to make sure it's always set. Which means every 11 gallons, it's going to pull a sample. Run continuously, no, because we never do. It's your 96 samples, 100 milliliters.
After the sampler has been set, we wait the programmed time, usually 24 hours, to retrieve the sample. We handle the full delivery of the sampling by dropping off the samples we collect to local labs to be tested. This year, the folks at Legend Labs allowed us to capture some of the footage of the magic that's happening at their facility. Take a look at some of the important work their crew is doing on a daily basis. With Mihawk Contracting teaming up with local labs like Legend, we have the ability to offer a full suite, turnkey sampling service to newly permitted industrial users and municipalities who need help conducting sampling studies. Now, let's roll that epic sampling montage.